Welcome today to the First Friday e-call with K-State Research and Extension. The purpose of the First Friday e-call is to nurture small business and to inspire entrepreneurship across the state. We encourage partner sharing after the call, so be thinking about what you want to share about what's going on in your organization or your county or your district, and inspire the rest of us with your ideas. As always, the call is being recorded. So you'll get a link to the website after the call is posted to the media site today, and a copy of the PowerPoints. Jonathan has shared his PowerPoints. And so with no further ado, Jonathan, take it away.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nancy. I appreciate this. And I sincerely appreciate the opportunity from K-State Research and Extension to talk about our Kansas Department of Commerce Certified Sites program. So for those of you who have never been aware of this program, we have had this in place. Primarily, we kind of did a reboot of our program starting in late summer of last year. And we've been building on it with the expertise of a lot of industry leaders and a lot of internal leaders from within the Department of Commerce and KEDA. And with the experience we have coming into this, we're hoping to make this program very, very successful. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And Nancy, if you could let me know if you can see this.
I can.
Okay, great. So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Jonathan Clayton, and I am the Southwest Kansas In-State Business Development Project Manager, which is a mouthful, but I'm also the Certified Sites Program Manager. And so my project manager role for in-state business development regards me into a territory for Southwest Kansas that if you were to draw a line from Pawnee County down to Oklahoma and all the way over to Colorado, it's those 18 counties that fit into that region. I also, as I mentioned, am the program manager for certified sites. So I oversee all of our applications that come in, as well as correspond with our technical review board, who provides the guidance and the approval for all of our applications. So to kind of get started, before we go any further, I do want to just let everybody know I am very much open to questions that you will think of during this presentation. I don't want you to have to hold them to the end. So if you do have questions, please feel free to unmute yourself, ask them, and I will do my best to answer them. If you'd rather wait till the end, we obviously will have a period for that as well too. So here's our overview for this morning. We'll discuss what a certified site is and how we obtain those sites from our prospects. We'll do an overview of the program, and we'll talk about the benefits of site certification. We'll go through the process for getting the application approved and the requirements for the application. And then again, as I said, we'll open it up for a Q&A section at the very end. Okay, so our first section is on what is a certified site. So without reading all of this directly to you, as Nancy mentioned, this will all be available to you at the after today's program. A certified site is a parcel of land that the Department of Commerce reviews through an application process and certifies as ready for economic development, or as the industry likes to call it, shovel ready. This program is set up to reduce a lot of the risk involved with potential investors and economic development projects by reducing those risks and increasing the level of certainty so that an investor can make a really wise decision on getting the perfect fit for their business or investment project that they're wanting to put into your region. We've partnered with utilities, environmental agencies, and other developers to kind of really fine tune this process. And these sites are certified through a technical review board that includes railway leaders, utility leaders, building development professionals, and commerce professionals as well. So we get our certified site opportunities from a variety of different prospects. Some of these are self-generated, so we'll have a local contact in the area. That might be an economic development agent. It might be a local contact through a local government entity. We also will receive prospects from existing businesses that are looking to expand or add new products. They might have already taken some of the opportunity to look at some sites that they were considering and could refer those to our certified sites program. The Kansas Department of Commerce also has prospects that we work with, whether through sites that we've had RFPs come in from previous opportunities for economic development projects, or through all of our networks that we have across the state. And then finally, we also get a lot of these prospects for sites from site selection consultants. These, of course, if you haven't worked with these are businesses and consultant firms that are primarily geared to finding the right site for a business that's looking to relocate or expand an opportunity. So our overview of our program, these are the basic bullet points that we want to stress over this program. A local government or locally recognized economic development organization is the primary pusher or the applicant for this program. We are allowed to use private properties that can be certified through our program, but the application has to come through the local entity or an economic development organization. We will review the data that comes in and provide certification or ask for more information to get that application approved. The minimum size for a parcel is 10 contiguous acres. And that means it has to be all in one tract, or it can be several tracts that are together, as long as there's no break and they are completely contiguous. They also have to be controlled by one entity. And by one entity, that can mean either a government owned property that's either owned by just a city or a county entity, or it can be a private business entity. An LLC or a partnership, as long as there are multiple people formed into that formation, as long as they're holding that property under that one entity of one LLC or one partnership or a standard corporation, that would make this property eligible. The property has to be primarily marketed by the community or the local economic development organization for business or industrial recruitment or expansion. And specifically, we always, of course, one of the biggest industries that commerce works with is manufacturing, but we also look at industrial sites such as trucking, logistics, service industries, or any kind of professional level industry that we can work with. The only two industries that are not permitted for site certification are retail and residential development. That was a decision made by our leadership in our Commerce Department that we right now, that can always change, but right now we are primarily targeting retail and residential developments at a later time. And right now we're going for manufacturing, industrial, and service-oriented projects. So here are the minimums that we have for the program to be eligible for a site to be considered. The site must have a 6-inch water main, industrial capacity sanitary sewer, and a 3-phase 12 kilovolt electric infrastructure. Now, that is the requirement for the site to be eligible for certification. However, if you do have a site that has maybe just 1 or 2 or none of those set up yet, but it has the potential for it, if it's able to be connected with a 6-inch water main, or the electricity can be converted or connected from an adjacent line, that's perfectly acceptable. We would just need a letter from the utility provider describing the process and the cost for the extensions and the service connection timeline required. That also pertains to a gas connection. Gas is not required for certification, but it is definitely, we do need a letter from your gas provider, whomever that might be, to just let us know that gas connection is a possibility and what that process would entail, the timeline, and estimated cost for connection. The property needs to be cleared of dense forestation and underbrush and is available for adequate development space without excessive cutting. So There have been some questions on that in the past about what is considered dense forestation and underbrush. And basically, we need the site to be as cleared as much as possible. So I'm out in Southwest Kansas. I'm based out of Dodge City. So if you're familiar with the term shelter belt, you know what a shelter belt is. And it's a long line of trees that provides protection from wind. If that is part of the property, that would need to be removed, or that portion of the property would have to not be under consideration for certification. So you can parcel out that plot and say, if you have a 50-acre parcel, but 3 acres of it's consumed by brush or shelter belt or tree line, you can remove those 3 acres from consideration without having to completely remove all of the trees. Another requirement is that the site has to be listed on LOIS or location 1 with all of the information as complete as possible, and the application materials attached to the site page. So everything that you send to us for certification, which that's the next, we'll get into that section here in a little bit, needs to also be identical and mirrored on the LOIS location 1 site. If you're not familiar with LOIS and location 1, I'm going to show up that site here in just a little bit. And the Kansas Department of Commerce has partnered with LOIS and Location 1 to provide access for any county or economic development agency to utilize that site at no cost. Once you do get the site certified, we provide recognition and certification from the Department of Commerce. That involves a lot of materials that we provide for you and a lot of endorsements that we provide to really kind of push this site at the top of the list for economic development projects. We do not negate any sites that are on LOIS or that we know of that are available for economic development. We do not push them down to the bottom of the list. We really just want to promote certified sites as our premier site. So if you've ever, and a lot of people have, gone onto a site like Zillow or trying to find a home listing, you will see some general listings, and then at the top of the list, you will see premier listings. And that's what we kind of equate our certified sites within the Department of Commerce as our premier listings of sites that are absolutely ready to go for economic development projects. Right now, we have a $250 fee for applying for certification. However, through the end of this year, and this was just extended recently, that fee is waived for any members of KEDA. And if you are an affiliate or a partner of an organization that is a member of KEDA, we will honor that partnership and waive that fee for you as well. All right, so some of you might be thinking, okay, this is a good program. What are kind of the benefits of this, and how is it going to be something that really, why is it worth my time? Why would I want to do something like this? So the benefits really for this program are primarily intangible. They're not, we do not have a cash incentive or a reimbursement for this program. These benefits are really a coordinated effort for the site, the selection committee within the industry or the business that's looking to invest, as well as the community and the economic development agency. So I'll just go through some of these really quickly. One of the biggest benefits of the site certification is that it really improves the competitive edge for marketing this site. We will take our certified sites, we have additional marketing opportunities for them. We have a web page dedicated specifically to it on our Kansas Department of Commerce site, which a lot of outside agencies review whenever they're looking for information about how to move a business into Kansas. We also will feature our certified sites in a lot of publications like Site Selection Magazine and our annual Kansas Review Program booklets. The other major benefit for site certification is that it reduces uncertainty for businesses to relocate. If the site has already been certified, then the business knows that they know that there's water connection available or it can be made available. They know electric is going to fit what they need. They know all the information about who owns the property, what the property value is, how long it's been listed for, what other projects have taken place, is there environmental assessment done? All of those boxes are checked once you have a site that's been certified, and it really helps reduce that level of uncertainty for a business to say yes. They can take that opportunity to move much more quickly on selecting a site for their project. That kind of leads to the next benefit, which is the decreasing of the investment period. So if you've ever worked on a commerce project with us before, or any other economic development project, you know that an investment period or construction period can take a certain period of time before a site is up and running. And if you have a certified site, that time frame gets drastically reduced. The business doesn't have to figure out what type of electrical is set up, or what the environmental assessment's done, or was it a brownfields level project prior to this, or did something, you know, what are all of these circumstances that go into play? The workforce information, the nearest fire department, all of the fire ratings are coming with it. That's all part of the certification process. And if we do that up front for these businesses, it really reduces the amount of time they have to take getting all this done, and they can get up and running and going a lot quicker. One of the other benefits, and this is where Nancy and I were talking about earlier, of something that really is a benefit not only for the business, but it's also the commitment of the site, that the community is ready for this project to go. They have really endorsed this project. I don't know if many of you have seen in the last couple of days, as I mentioned, my region is Southwest Kansas, and I work in Dodge City. We had a very, very big announcement with Hilmar Cheese selecting Dodge City for a 247 person plant that's going to be coming in to Dodge City, with construction starting in the next few months and operations starting in the beginning or early part of 2024. This was a $450 million capital investment by Hilmar, and this is going to reap economic benefits twofold at minimum for this area. With bringing in a project like this, you have a site that not only brings in those specific jobs, but every one of those people working is either going to be changing jobs from an existing employer, which means that employer is going to need to bring in new people from out of the area. You're going to be increasing the property tax value by having additional residents. You're going to be increasing the sales tax revenue within the area. You're going to be providing the opportunity for organic and sustainable growth by having a project like this coming into this region. We are extremely excited about it, but it would not have been possible had it not been for the commitment of the entire community. We had educational leadership from DC3 and the USD 443 in Dodge City. We had utility leaders who were on board and providing affordable and competitive rates to really help help Hilmar make the decision to move. We also had the opportunity for local and county government to partner with state leadership and the economic development agencies in all three of those areas. This was a community and group investment that's going to pay off dividends for decades to come.
Jonathan, I'm going to add an exclamation mark to what you just said. In our conversation between 9 and 9:30, why I was telling Jonathan that I led an early childhood initiative in Topeka, and we got so much more effective when we started writing for grants, because it opened up. When we saw money available, we would say, hey, we need a new partner if we're going to go for this grant. And Jonathan and I totally agree that the certified sites is another way to say, hey, let's have this conversation even before anybody's interested, because the better time to make friends is before you need them. So let's all agree what we want to have and go for it. And, you know, the more that you do that, the more likely the vision is to come true in some form or another.
Absolutely. Yeah, as just to reiterate this, there was no way possible that this project would have been successful had we not had a full investment from every single aspect that we could to get this project going, from the state to the county to the city, and all of the investment from the utilities and education and workforce providers in the area. And the Certified Sites program really showcases that connection, because you have a a parcel of land that might be a private business owner or it's owned publicly by a government entity, but you have to have that commitment from the utility providers. You have to have it available from your local workforce development agencies, that you have the right workforce for the right kind of project, and to gather all of that information, to
And
have
I'm
that available beforehand is vital.
It's great. And Jonathan, I've got to confess, I am a recovering perfectionist. And so I struggle against, oh, there's another thing that I haven't done or I need to do. And if I'm not mistaken, you said that the certified site really hadn't played into this project. So don't lose hope. But I just think that this is another way to to predict the kismet that could happen if your community is ready and open, and prove yourself to be ready and open.
That's right. Yeah, we didn't, the site that was selected for this was not a certified site with the Department of Commerce. It was a site that Dodge City and Ford County had available for quite a period of time, but they needed to have that right business for the right opportunity to get there. And it worked out absolutely in their favor. I appreciate that Ron Wilson just provided a link from dairyfoods.com to discusses the opportunity that Hilmar is bringing to Dodge City. So if you have a moment after we're done or want to copy that link and open it up afterwards, please feel free. And I appreciate all of the kudos and the congrats for this project. It was well deserved for all of the effort that was put in by everybody. So the last benefit I'll talk about, which again ties into all of these, is that this really demonstrates that the business is ready to go and the site is economically and developmentally sound. You're going to know, the business is going to know, excuse me, that with all the information gathered from the certified site process, that the workforce is the right fit, the utilities are the right fit, and that the community can support having a business coming in with a certain number of jobs, and that they have the right workforce for it. A lot of people we've seen from Commerce, a lot of counties or economic development agencies might turn down a project because they don't feel they have the workforce. And while that is completely admirable to say, you know what, this isn't the right fit for us, and you know your community well, that's great. However, we always want to make sure that you're taking into consideration that people are willing to commute and drive for a good job. They are willing to come from one county to another or one city to another if that's a good paying job. And a lot of these manufacturing jobs are really great paying jobs. They're sustainable, they're livable wages. And if someone wants to drive an extra 20 to 30 minutes outside of your county or your region, or even better for us, if they come over state lines and want to come and work and get that opportunity there and then eventually move into the state, that's a draw that you have. And you really want to widen your perspective on what you're, specifically with workforce. If you have a community, I live in a very small community of about 200, but there are several areas around me where you have communities ranging between 700 and 1,500 people. Now, you wouldn't think that a 250 level employee project coming into the area would be sustainable by that. But if you add up all of those communities that surround me that have that 600 to 1,500 person range, plus the fact that I'm a half hour from Dodge City and a half hour from the Oklahoma border, that is something that is not entirely out of the range of possibility for this region. Dodge City was able to secure that, and that's fantastic because they've got a larger community and a workforce that can support that. But they're going to also be drawing on people traveling from nearby counties like Finney and Gray and Seward even. We've had a lot of people go back and forth between Seward and Finney and Ford counties for positions that are, as long as they're good paying jobs, they're going to be able to do that. So again, to reiterate back to sort of site certification, these businesses are going to really know going into it that this workforce area, that the utilities are the right fit, and that the community is on board for this. Next slide here. So I know this might look a little complex, and I am going to walk through this as best as I can, but this is our site certification application process. So it's kind of a flow chart that goes from left to right. So over here on the left, the applicant will complete what's called an intent to apply. This is a one-page form, which I'll show here in just a second, on our website that really identifies all of the basics needed for that information for the site. It's the parcel size, the name of the site, address where it's located, who the contact is, and a few other pieces of information. If that site for notification or intent to apply is approved, I will review the intent to apply and provide an approval or require a request for more information. If it's approved, you go along this timeline here. That starts a 1-year clock. We ask that from the moment that the notice of intent is approved, that you have 1 year to submit all of the application materials for site certification. We ask that it's done within a 1-year time period because within 1 year, if you go longer than that, you can also have the opportunity for certain things to change about the area. The workforce levels can change. You might have an increase or reduction in the price or the value of the property. It could also change hands, internally from the county to the city. So we want to make sure that that's done within 1 year's time. Within that 1 year, the applicant will then submit the full application for certification. And then I will review that again. And then depending on on the timing of that, this will go over to our technical review board for full approval, or at any point during that process, either myself or the review board can send the application back for more information. And you'll see here on the bottom, I talk about, it says here, end of following quarter. So the time period, and I'll show this on here as well, for submitting this is a 1-year time period, and then all applications are due on a quarterly basis. They are due the 15th of the second month of each quarter, so that we have time as a review board to have them reviewed and approved by the end of that same quarter. So here's two examples of how that timeline would work. Example 1, the applicant submits their intent to apply January 1st. They come within that 1-year deadline of the full application, so they've sent it in November 30th. That falls after the second month, the 15th of the second month, so it gets pushed to March 15th, where it's reviewed no later than that by our review board, so the following quarter, and it's approved by the end of that next quarter. Now, there are some exceptions we will definitely make. If we only have just a couple of applications come in and we still have time to review them, these applications are in depth, they're pretty thorough, and it takes a while for our review board to go through them all to make sure that nothing's missing, that all the information is correct. If we only happen to have 1 or 2 and you come in a few days late or even a couple of weeks late from that 15th of each month, 15th of the second month of each quarter time period, we'll go ahead and try to get it approved that same quarter. On the second half of the slide here, you'll see example 2. This has some more contingencies in it. Let's say the applicant submits their intent to apply December 15th, they just squeak in on the 1-year timeline for December 1st, for the 1-year time period, but it doesn't come in by that second month of the quarter. Again, we'll review it by March 15th. And in this scenario, we have to send it back. So we send it back and say, we need some more information. There wasn't something that was clear. We ask that you send it back to us the following quarter. It's submitted. So March 31st, we send it back. If it's resubmitted by May 15th, then we have it back by the end of that quarter. However, if it's submitted later than that, then we have to push it to the following quarter again to honor those same timelines. But we'll have the opportunity, to have that reviewed and try to have it back within the same the following quarter if possible. I know that's a little confusing, but it's basically 1 year to get your application done and have it in by the second month, 15th day, and we'll have it reviewed by that same quarter. If it comes in after, then it goes to the next quarter. So there's also a process for annual verification. Annual verification is where we have a site that has been certified, but it has not been sold or transferred for an economic development project within the first year. There's no charge for annual verification. You just have to get us a form that we have available on our website that says your site has been certified. It hasn't been sold yet. What are the acres that are still available? Have you had any RFPs that you've submitted for this site? Have you had any site visits that the site's been under for RFP consideration? We take that and factor in the first site certification, and then we just issue you a renewal. The process for certification lasts for 3 years. So your site can be completely certified by the state Department of Commerce for 3 years. If it goes for 3 years and it takes longer than that, we do ask you to complete the certification process again. However, a lot of that information is going to be the same. You're going to have the parcel information, the owner information, the utilities, and all of that information. What we do request, though, if it does take 3 years, we need to look at what's hindering that from being sold or transferred into a project. Are we not marketing it the proper way? Are we not conveying to our potential business investments that this is a site ready for development? Or is it something that maybe the site's not the right fit for all the RFPs that have come in? We've got to figure out a way to remarket it. The other reason that we also want to look at getting an update after 3 years is because the workforce levels can drastically change in 3 years period. You can have a time period of 3 years where you have a large population moving in or out of the area, and we need to have more up-to-date and accurate information on workforce. Fire ratings can change, floodplain level information needs to be updated. A lot of that information does need to be updated, but the primary gathering of information certification will already be done for you if you have to go beyond that 3-year period. So here's some information to get started. You want to make sure that, again, the applicant and the community are fully on board. It is a time-intensive process for the community and the person compiling the application. So you really want to say, if you have the opportunity and the budget to do so, how can you break up the application into pieces and assign it to different people so that you are not the one person that's taking into consideration of all of the time and effort to go into it. We did have a quick question here. Lisa Rhodes asked, what is RFP? So that is generally stands for request for proposal. That is whenever the Department of Commerce will send out an RFP or request for proposal to counties and economic development agencies, asking if they have sites that would match what this potential business is looking for to move into their area. So we'll get some basic level information from a business saying that they need to be able to hire, say 1,000 employees, and they need rail access within a certain period of miles. They need to be X number of miles from the nearest highway and so many more miles to the nearest interstate. It's a composite of information that we send out to all of our contacts that we feel would best match that project, and get that information back to the business so that they can start whittling down which sites that they want to look for. One of the other tips on this is that it can be somewhat expensive. You need to determine who's going to be paying for the cost of the assessments in terms of if it's environmental assessment, gathering all of the data. If you are being tracked on your hours on a project level, is the county or your board willing to pay for the time that you as an economic development agency or as a county or city employee is going to be spending on this, as well as all of the fees that are involved, from the Department of Commerce and any of the other agency fees that you might incur for all the assessments and work that need to go into this. We have seen on average the cost range from $500 all in for an application to a couple of thousand, $2,000 to $3,000. And that just depends really on the means that you're tracking your time, the cost of the environmental assessment, and a lot of the other information that you have to gather. It's really kind of, you can look through the application and determine this might, get some quotes for some of these costs before you delve into the full project. Again, some more tips on this. The commitments need to be made regarding the site and utilities. So as we talked about at the beginning, if you have utility connections that are ready to go, you need to make sure that the utility provider can actually service that. If you don't have those utilities that are available currently, you do need to have the commitment from the utilities that they can eventually provide that. And again, what the timeline is going to be, cost for getting that implemented, and who's going to pay that cost. Is that a cost that you as a county agency or economic development agency is going to take on for getting those connections? Or down the road, if you are fortunate enough to have a business that's interested in it, as part of your proposal to that business, are you going to offer to pay for those connection costs? And how much of that rate is going to be available from the utility provider that you as an economic development agency might want to take on to draw that business in? And again, last point, divide up the work and set benchmarks for completion. There's 5 major sections of the application, which is our next part. And you want to set up, it's a good idea if you've got those to try to get one done every 2 months. That gets you done in a 10-month period of time under that year. And it gives you that extra month, 2 months to get the data reviewed, approved by your board if that's required, and submitted to us in that last quarter of the year so we can get you certified before the end of that final quarter. Okay, so our intent to apply, I talked about this earlier. Our intent to apply is this 1-page document that shows us, when you submit it, what the name of the parcel is, how many acres are to be certified, who your contact is going to be. And we also ask for one of the following pieces of information to get really going, to make sure that we know that this is a viable site. So that can include either a site map, if you have a marketing brochure that you've already prepared for this site, an aerial photo would work, including a drone photo, or any other marketing material that you have that shows where the site is in location relative to the community that it surrounds or that it's adjacent to. The application for certification is not itself that difficult in terms of processing it online. Again, I mentioned there are 5 sections, and rather than having to upload individual documents for within each of those sections, we ask that you combine all of each of these sections into 5 different PDF formats so that you can have one file that goes with all the ownership information, one file with all the property information, and so on with all 5 of these. You can save those files, add them to your application, save your application, close it, and come back later and resume where you were. You'll also be saving yourself a lot of headache without trying to upload. Most of us have probably experienced a situation where we have this form or paperwork we have to send in. We have this great big Adobe file ready to go, and then you try to submit it and it fails because it's too big. And we've tried to take our opportunity to fix that by breaking this down into these 5 sections and one attachment for each of these. So here's where we start going over what's actually required in the application. And again, the way this is set up is you will provide these documents, you will number them based off of the numbering code system that we have here, as well as in the application information. We have a whole resource of information that walks you through every document that's needed, how you will be able to obtain it, what kind of format we need it in. And that way you just kind of add all those together. If you print everything out and you scan it to one file, that's fine. Or if you have a little more technical expertise and you can compile them into one Adobe file through Adobe's software, you can do that too. You'll gather all these different pieces of information and put them all together into one Adobe file with this numbering system here on the left. So for example, you'll have a page that says name and contact information of the owner, and you'll put that information and a 1.1 beside it. If that fits on one page, that's great. You can also have your next page would be letter from owner with the fixed sale price. So you'll have a letter from the owner with a recent date, and on the top of it, you'll put 1.2. Again, you'll keep going through this information one section at a time. If you have more than one page for one of these numbers, that's okay. You can put 1.3 on multiple pages as long as it's in order. That's all we need, because I'm the one who goes through this to make sure that we have all of the information needed. And if it's numbered and kept in order, It makes my job a lot easier, and we can get you going a lot faster on your certification. So ownership information, that's where we ask for, again, who the contact is for the owner, the sale price, documentation of any easements, liens, rental contracts, or encumbrances. We do allow leased properties to be part of this program. So if you have a property owner that doesn't want to sell, but they do want to lease it out, they are eligible to do that. However, we do require that they would have to commit in writing that it would be at minimum a 10-year lease for whatever business that comes in there. That makes kind of common sense to most of us, at least we hope it does, because if a business comes in and puts in a brand new factory or a service center or anything like that, they're not going to want to really pick up and move again in 5 years. A lot of that also ties into if you have a local tax abatement, that if it's a 10-year program or a 5-year program, they're most likely not going to make any kind of major changes and leave before that abatement's over. And the standard, of course, the maximum we have from the state is a 10-year tax abatement for property taxes that's permitted by a county or economic development organization. So if you do have a leased property that you want to consider, it does need to be at minimum a 10-year offer from the landowner. I won't go through all these because there's several of these requirements. Each section has anywhere between 5 and 20 different items that's required of it. So the next section talks more about property information requirements. So this, again, we go over the parcel acres and sizes, the parcel size and acres, excuse me, the mill rate, topographical maps, aerial photos, all of this information that a lot of times you can gather from your appraiser's office, your county clerk's office. It's just kind of figuring out how your county government is organized, who maintains this information, and who do you get it from. So that's where a lot of the legwork comes in for applicants, is trying to figure out who holds this information. We try to provide some opportunities and some help with that in our application material. This is some more property information requirements, real estate agents, zoning regulations, any overlay district regulations or requirements. And then the third section, we ask for environmental and cultural information. This is where you're going to have a lot of your legwork come in terms of having to get an environmental assessment. How do you get that? Are you eligible for the brownfields program through KDHE? And if you aren't familiar with brownfields, basically if KDHE or if it's determined that the site has had some level of contamination, you can apply through KDHE to get a phase 1 environmental assessment at no cost. If there is some contamination, then you do have to do a phase 2 environmental assessment and so on. The environmental information we ask for here also talks about floodplain boundaries. If you have wetlands on your property, what your plans are to preserve those. We also ask for soil conditions and seismic activity if you've had earthquakes recently, any other archaeological or cultural resources that are done. We have specific information on how to complete that in our application. Section 4 goes over access information. So we want to know what the roadways are like. What are the rail access and air service access? And are you near a river port? What's your fire insurance rating? What your utilities are the specifics are for the utilities. And then the final section goes over community information requirements, post office, freight service, local support. You'll see here section 5.7 is the lowest, location 1. That's where we spoke about before. Every one of these sites has to be on lowest and location 1 in order to be eligible for site certification. And this is also where we ask for workforce information, what your available employment rates are, your educational attainment, all of those things that we need to know in around your workforce statistics of your area.
As you go through these sites, Jonathan, it makes it more and more apparent how this can be divvied out to other partners.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have, people in your community or your county that are willing to assist and get to all of the information on workforce and all the information on the parcel and the deeds and the properties, that's going to help you be kind of the project manager and collect all of that information. If you get your site certified, that's fantastic. It's not over. You still have some work ahead. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed for a project, but it just really means that you are all on the same page. The landowner, the community, the area around are ready to make that project happen, and that you are, as a community, invested in going. That's absolutely right, Nancy. Many hands make light work. Okay, so we've kind of reached the end here. Before I go to questions, if there are any, I want to change over to just a second here. Just 1 second. So I want to show you all what Lois looks like if you've never seen Lois. Lois is, again, that's the site that shows all of the available economic development projects we have in the state, all these sites that are ready to go in terms of an RFP. However, right now, there are 4 certified sites across the state of Kansas, and we are building this program. We started it back, really kind of rebooted it back late last summer. These 2 sites up here are in Paola. These are the Kansas Commerce certified sites. Dodge City has received a certified site through the Sunflower Economic Development Program. And I'm not quite familiar with Hutchinson's here. It's the industrial park in Hutchinson, and I believe it's certified through the shovel-ready site designation for general manufacturing. So that gives you an opportunity to kind of see what sites are there. If you go back, let's see if I can move this over here. And you can really kind of filter out. So this is really important if you have, let's say, a business that's coming in and they only want to look at certified sites. If you're one of these 4 or 5, you really kind of stand out. I mean, right now you really, really stand out, because if you were to remove the filter for site certification, these are all of the sites that we have just on this one page. There are 562 sites in Kansas. This is just the first 100 of them. And right now, these are just sorted in a certain area. So again, if you go in here and want to look at sites that are just certified, you can click this search button, and there's a filter here for sites certified. You click yes. There are your sites right there. So you are really taking an opportunity to stand out. Yes, Gunnar asked a question if I'll be able to share the presentation to the group. Absolutely. I believe Nancy's going to make it available to everybody once we're done. And then the other site or other webpage I wanted to just show each of you was, this is our Kansas Department of Commerce certified sites page. So I'll provide the link in the chat box here as well. It's also inside of the presentation at the very end. But you can see in here, my contact information is at the top. We also talk about, we have our directory of our certified sites, which is growing. Hopefully, we're going to get more soon. We have just about 10 applications in the notice of intent phase, which means they've notified us within the last 12 months that they are going to be fulfilling the application. And our first couple of deadlines are coming up in a couple of months, and we're hoping to start seeing those actual applications coming in. Here are the buttons where you can do your intent to apply and create an account and complete the full application. And then here are the program application instructions and the resource guide. So the instructions, I'll open this up here. This is a PDF file that you can download and use. We just revised some of this information as of yesterday, so it's very, very current and up to date. But as you'll go down here, you'll see all of our table of contents. You'll get some basic information about the certified site program. And then we get to the meat of it, which is right here. All of your sections that talk about each of the requirements for all of your application sections. So for example, 1.1, we want the name, address, and phone number of the owner. So that we give a suggested source. We do that for every single requirement of this application process. We get down to a couple of here where it's pretty self-explanatory. We just need a sealed copy of the boundary survey. But if it's not clear, we have some information over here. This is also a very good link for the majority of the counties that we have in our state. If you've ever used this, this is kansasgis.org/orca. if you zoom in here on any of these green counties, you can actually yourself, any person of the public can go in here. We'll look at Reno County. So you can zoom into Reno County, and then you can get more information about the site, excuse me, the parcels that are there. You can also type in an address and go directly into Hutchinson or anywhere into the area that if the county is green, and you can find a parcel map. It'll show the appraisal value. It'll show the name of the current owner. That all of that information will be right there. Let me see if I can find something that's a little more specific. I apologize, keep going the wrong link there. But this will allow you to keep going in until you get to a city or a community where you want to look and find all of the information that you can for that site, who's going to be there, you know, how long it's been under that person's name. This is all public information, and you just really have to kind of drill down until you find, you know, where you want to look in terms of parcels, and it gets down to the parcel size. And then you can really take an opportunity to go and look at all of the information you need. That's going to help you fill out a large portion of your application. So I won't get into too much here because it's very specific. Unfortunately, the red counties don't participate in this website, but you can also, you know, always ask your appraiser or your county clerk to have that opportunity to try to add your county to that. So again, all of the links for that are inside of the application guide. We have the information there available for you on our website. I will go ahead and just bring this back up here just in case anybody needs it. My contact information is here. But now I know we don't have much time left, Nancy, and I apologize for going so long. It's a lot of information. But if anybody has questions they want to ask live or on chat, I'm willing and able to answer as many as possible. If you want to contact me afterwards for a specific question about your site, I'm more than happy to take phone calls or answer emails at all.
Jonathan, I'm a firm believer in the fact that when we know someone, we're more likely to reach out to them. And I think that now you've become a friendly face instead of a bureaucrat, and somebody who will celebrate with us that we're ready to start a process and we're willing to try. And so thank you so much for that. What questions I'm trusting that most of you did ask your questions, but you can see that Jonathan's watching carefully. I'm going to go on and ask you folks to think about what you have to share. And meanwhile, Jonathan and I will both be watching for your questions. If you want to go back and ask a question, why do? So as I'm asking you to share though, Jonathan, thank you so much. This has really been helpful. One thing I would ask you to put into the chat is the Lois site. I noticed that the Lois URL is a nationwide URL. And so if you can drill us down to Kansas like you did, why that would be awesome. I know everybody's capable of doing that, but that gets us one step closer. So in the sharing, as you're thinking about what you might have to share, I'd like to call your attention to, again, to K-State Research and Extension's grant workshops. We've had several of them already. They are now online. Later today, I will add 2 more to my to the calendar section, and I will put in the chat where you go to register for grant workshops as they occur. We have one scheduled for June and another one for September, and I will be putting them soon on the calendar. They cost $60, and they consist of 2 synchronous sessions, and then lots and lots and lots of resources, kind of like Jonathan has shared with us in his ending comments. And I think that was really valuable, Jonathan. Thank you. So who else has a share? There are things we can learn from each other. I would like each of you to consider filling out the evaluation survey that we have. Very, very short, tells me who was on the call and whether you found it valuable. We are an extension, we are a research university, and it only counts if we know that it counted and mattered to somebody. So we really appreciate your feedback. I'm not going to linger here long. If nobody has any sharing, I'm going to give you 20 more seconds to think and to get unmuted.
Nancy, that link that I just provided will take anybody right directly to the Kansas site, and it kind of adds the filters into that link so you can go and kind of already start looking at specific sites. One of the things I did not mention that I should have, and I apologize, is that certification for sites does not include buildings. It is for sites only. If you have a building on that site, we can't certify the building. We can certify all of the area around that building, but not the building itself. That is a very, very different opportunity that we have not involved ourselves yet with Commerce.
That's a really good clarification, and thanks for the chat link. Appreciate that. So we have a question. I feel like the site seekers use rural as a flyover, or think of us as a flyover. How can we get their attention better when we don't have the same opportunities as the city areas?
That's a really good question, and it's kind of a hard one to answer. My obvious first answer is going to be, of course, site certification. That's going to stand you out for as a rural area, because we don't have a lot of rural areas that are as eligible for many of our programs and our projects as the more urban areas. That's kind of the obvious answer from your certified site program manager. However, I would really say that you take every opportunity you can when an RFP comes in, or if you are getting an opportunity to market your community better or in a more stronger way where it reaches out to more people, that you take those opportunities. Even if you don't have the exact, like I mentioned before, if you don't have the exact workforce in your area, but it's something, if you expand your scope of that to maybe a 30-mile or 45-mile radius, that can really bring you in and make you as competitive. There's going to be natural advantages that rural areas, specifically where I'm at in Southwest Kansas, we are nowhere near an interstate. And that's one of the biggest asks of a lot of our projects, is how close are you to an interstate? We aren't close, very close at all down here in Southwest Kansas to an interstate. However, we have some of the best wastewater treatment facilities in the entire part of the state. We have some of the lowest unemployment numbers in the entire part of the state. So that means we've got people who are happily employed, but if they have a better opportunity from a new project or a new business that comes in, they're going to take that opportunity because they are committed workers to this area. So some of it's an uphill battle, but some of it's going to be like, how do you market yourself? How do you keep pushing those RFPs? Because specifically with Hilmar cheese, Dodge City was not one of the first places that was considered. Yeah, we have a lot of open land out here, and we were close to a lot of great dairies, but we weren't one of the first considered areas. But we have a very successful economic development agency for Dodge City, Ford County. We have people who are committed. We have that environment where there's a commitment of utilities and leadership that really pushes, you've got to be the one to scream the loudest sometimes. And that's what Dodge City did, and said, no, it's us. We're here and we're going to do this the right way. And Hilmar agreed.
We have two questions, one directly to me and one you can read in the public chat. So reiterate what you said about leased land. The other comment is that the RFPs seem to be fewer this year. Do we need to re-sign up or make sure we are getting all the RFPs?
So there's a couple of things from my understanding on the RFPs, and if I'm wrong, please anyone correct me on this. I know that we will start requiring as of, I believe it's June 1st, that all sites to be considered for an RFP must be in LOIS, whether they're going to be certified or not. For the Department of Commerce, if you have a site that you want to be considered for an RFP, it must be in LOIS. What that then involves is once we start looking at sites, we are, as a Department of Commerce, going to do some of that selection and filtering out some sites that aren't the right fit. So if it is a requirement by a business that they have to be within 30 miles of an interstate, we will only pull those sections and those sites that are within 30 miles of an interstate. I also know that we're kind of experiencing an after effect of COVID, and I know I'm not a fan of using that as an excuse for everything, but a lot of businesses that were making moves from out of state inside to Kansas, a lot of them did that last year because the planning, the investment, and the engagement from those businesses took place in the years leading up to that. And with last year having a big hole in terms of productivity, work environment, if you've got people who are making those decisions that are not all together and available to do that as an organization, whether it's a private industry or anything else, if they're not able to make those investments last year, those RFPs are going to come at a slower rate. We've seen that across the state this year. And it's kind of an after effect of the slowdown from the economic slowdown due to COVID. We have started to see a lot more of the internal expansion pick up. So businesses that are already in Kansas and they're looking to expand into bigger areas or to expand their footprint, we have started seeing more of that now. And we do believe that recruitment opportunities will start picking up towards the end of the year and into next year. But you're not wrong. I don't work with the out-of-state recruitments. I work primarily with in-state expansions for the most part. So we don't see a lot of the out-of-state as big as it was last year, but we do predict to see that starting to ramp back up towards the end of the year and early into next. So that combined with our Department of Commerce being more selective in who is not eligible for certain specific projects, those two factors probably played one of the largest effects of that.
And Jonathan, Nancy, this is Carrie Folletti, Cali County. Can I add just a little bit on that? So I think if they were asking about the RFPs and how to get those RFPs go to the local economic development contact through Commerce. So it's that local economic development person will then make that connection with that site. So that's why the RFPs are all confidential. So those only go to specific contacts that are on there. So yeah, and that's the lowest is that really important key piece, but that's where those RFPs funnel through.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate that. That's one of the other processes. Most of our counties have an economic development contact or an agency. If not, it will just go directly to a county clerk or as city administrator or something like that. But absolutely, Carrie's right. It goes through the economic development agency. They have to keep that information extremely private. I mean, we've oftentimes had non-disclosure agreements, even with certain levels of RFPs and projects that come in. The other question we have on the chat from Lisa. May I have access to the notice of intent and application templates so I can present them? Yes, absolutely. So you can go on to our Department of Commerce certified sites page. You can print those out. So provide those to your board. Again, it's just a one-page form. You can also provide them the full application instruction booklet and the resource guide for their decision-making on whether or not to pursue that. It provides not only all the specific information on the projects, on the program, but also some easier to read guidelines and overall introductions and kind of like a one-page white paper for each of those as well. So absolutely, you're welcome to print those off. Those are just standard online forms. And then I know there was another question.
About leases.
Yes, about leases.
Could they be leased?
Yes, can they be leased? Yes, absolutely. So if it's a property is going to be leased, that's perfectly fine. We just ask that there's a request from the leaseholder of at minimum 10 years for that lease negotiation at the time of the contract.
Very good. Yeah, you've got all the questions that I saw.
Okay.
Well, this is excellent. And the people who are here are obviously here because they want this information. And so I appreciate your willingness to stay and be patient with a longer time frame. I will wrap it up now and tell you that we have our next presenter is Amy Baker, a K-State Research and Extension agent who is going to tell us how Wichita County worked together to provide quality childcare. And we are reaching out to other communities who have solved this problem and worked together. If you know a community who has been successful at this or is working at it, please invite them to be part of this, or let me know personally so that I can tell them. I'm really excited about our next lineup. And I've got today, I will be adding the new workshops to the calendar, which can be found right here. It's not complete right this minute, but it will be later today. But we have programs on housing, programs on how to work with your farmers. Rick McNary and Deb Brown are going to talk about promoting agriculture and farmers. And so we've got some great programs coming up, some of which came from people like you who were on the call and suggested them. So thank you for that. And I'm going to hold Jonathan to his promise to connect me with the broadband expert. Big connections. These are the people who know the people, and we get so much farther together. So I always like to leave you with a thought for the day. And our thought for the day comes from Maya Angelou, the very quotable Maya Angelou, who says, "The horizon leans forward, offering you space to play new steps of change. And some of those change steps will have cheese in them." So congratulations, Southwest Kansas. And
thank you, Nancy.
We'll see you all next month.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Jonathan.